Hello everyone, welcome to Vlogmas Day 12. I'm Maya and I'm so happy to have you all here. If you haven't already, then subscribe to this channel, and if you enjoy the video, then give it a thumbs up. Today we're talking about podcasting. I love talking about podcasting because I love just sharing insight and ideas. I do offer strategy sessions right now to help people with their podcast growth and monetization, all of that. I don't think I'm going to be offering it in 2021, or at least not well into 2021. So if you want to chat now, this would be the perfect time to book, because once December rolls out, I'm definitely not going to be actively promoting them because I want to focus on some other big things that are a little bit more aligned for me. But I love talking about podcasting in this forum, and today I am talking about how I take an episode from idea to production, I guess. So I've been doing Gentler for a little over a year now, so I have a process that works pretty well for right now. Definitely looking into streamlining it even more into the new year, but for right now I know what works and what really helps me to stay focused and stay on task with the episodes. So to start out, every episode begins as an idea. I kind of have a little flicker like, oh, maybe I'll do an episode on that. But I don't always have that idea right away, and I put out episodes on a weekly basis, so sometimes it'll be like Sunday night and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to make an episode about. So I found ways that really help me to figure out what I should talk about. And now that I've been doing it for a year or over a year, I have a wide catalog of topics to choose from, and I know how they're going to perform. So in the beginning, when I needed a podcast episode idea, I would do things like going to Pinterest or scrolling on Instagram, basically looking to just see what topics jump out at me, like what blog posts I see are popular from other people that I feel like I could speak on. And I never really would click and read what they were saying. I don't like my own ideas to be clouded with other people's information, especially if I know I'm going to do an episode on it. But I would just notice the titles, notice keywords that were like across the top of the screen that were getting traction, and see if any of them applied to my area. And that was helpful, especially to kind of get a wider view of topics before I really decided what I wanted to settle down in. Now I really don't do a lot of that unless I just really want to test out new things, or I feel like I'm in an episode rut, or we've been talking about the same things for a while. But these days what I do is I open up my podcast distributor app, or I use Anchor, whatever app or platform you use, and I just look at what are the most popular episodes. So I just look at what the most popular episodes are, and then that gives me an idea of what does really well. And so you're not going to recreate the episode necessarily. I mean, maybe I would do that if I had done episodes like 3 years before and I could revisit the same topic or share if my ideas have changed or anything like that. But for right now, I know that the majority of the top 5 episodes that I have done, most of them are about financial self-care. So I know financial self-care is always going to be a good thing that people are looking for. The other episode I think that wasn't financial self-care was like a really great guest, like a really big popular guest. I had Brooke Michio on the show, and that episode is by far the most popular. So maybe I want to go down that route and find another widely popular person to put on the show. So I could go down multiple routes. Now, every episode is not going to be like that, and there are times where I want to talk about a topic regardless. I don't know how it's going to perform. Maybe I've never talked about it before. Maybe I know it doesn't perform as well as the other ones, and that's okay, because if I feel like I have an idea of the transformation that my podcast should take people on, and not just the podcast, but Gentler as a whole, the entire brand. When I start putting out new products and things like that, I have an idea of what I want Gentler to help people do, and I break it down by tiers. And this is I'm diving in a little bit deeper here, but I am going to start offering a membership program next year, and I have a couple of paid ebooks. And so I want to make sure that when I'm offering paid content and courses and stuff, I had a course last year, or a course last month rather, when I offer things like that, I want to make sure that I have the free content lined up so that you're ready for the paid content. I want to make sure that, I ask myself, okay, in order for them to achieve this transformation, what steps do they have to go through? And some of those steps revolve around the free content, which is the podcast, the blog post, the Instagram post. So I will put in topics that we haven't explored deeply yet, things that I feel like are necessary for you to grasp in order for you to make the progress that I hope for you to make by engaging with the podcast and the brand gentler. So that is how I kind of come up with the idea. I also keep a running list of things, so that's what I'm talking about, like what else would they need to know, so I can check that, and also checking the Instagram photos and images that have done really well. A lot of people don't realize, but my Instagram topics, a lot of times where I test topics for the first time, especially if I'm doing something new, or a new like topic or something, I'll test the idea out on an Instagram graphic, see how it performs, and then maybe after that I'll do a full blog post on it. So the next thing I do, it used to be really hard for me to take a podcast episode from idea to episode. I don't know, it just seemed like a huge obstacle. So now I will just flesh out the takeaways, and I'll ask myself, what do I want people to know and walk away with after they listen to this episode? And I'll break that down into 3 parts. So I even say it on some episodes. I'm trying to do it on all the episodes so that listeners know exactly what they can look out for. But I'll say, after hearing this episode, you should be able to blah blah blah, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. I usually stick to 3 things unless it's super deep topic. And for some episodes, I don't have any clear and distinct takeaways. Maybe I'm telling a little bit more of a story, or maybe I am just unearthing an idea. They're not all going to be how-tos. I would say I have probably, aside from the Gently Chat episodes, I probably have 3 main episode structures that I use when it comes to that. But most of the time it's going to be 3 takeaways that people will walk away with. So I'll plan out those takeaways and kind of leave it there. Then the next thing I do, I flesh out the entire meat of the episode. So the actual topic, no segments, just the actual this is what we're here to talk about. So those takeaways. I used to just kind of run with it, and sometimes I will too, again, if it's one of those where I'm telling a story or something like that. But most times, or at least the most helpful thing for me to do, is to write some form of a blog post about that episode. And I keep it very casual. I will word things more so the way I speak rather than the way I would actually write, if I was doing a paid post somewhere, or if I was writing a paper for school. Yeah, I'll write these blog posts more so I speak, and I'll even sometimes be speaking out loud and just writing what I say. And you don't have to write before you do it. You could just do the episode and then have a transcription, all that. But I find having some written form of what the episode is helps, because it's going to really help if you have a blog post of that episode, just so that if people don't want to read it, don't want to listen to it, they can read it. And for SEO purposes, I feel like maybe I talked about this in another Vlogmas video. I'm getting deja vu from saying this stuff, and at this point, this is my 12th video this month, so there's no telling. But yeah, so I will flesh out the entire thing from start to finish, and I sometimes will go on extra tangents when I'm actually talking, and I'll add an extra story here or there. But for the most part, I just read it the way that I wrote it, because I wrote it the way that I talk, so it's a very natural thing for me to do. So after that, I will flesh out the additional segments. So I recently polled my Instagram Instagram followers for the podcast account, and the majority of people said they wanted the podcast to be longer. So I was like, okay, bet. And the best way to do that is, you can dive in a little bit deeper with the topics. I feel like I dive in a way that's pretty digestible, and to dive in deeper, it might be a little bit overwhelming, and that's where the paid products come in. So I will focus more so on adding segments and sharing a little bit more, because I feel like segments are a great opportunity for you to share more to your audience about who you are. It's a great way to connect with your audience a little bit better, to add some variety, obviously. There's just so much that you can do with podcast segments, and I've heard all different types. People have book clubs, or people have advice and all that stuff. Right now, I focus on the show updates, so that's a great way for me to just share news about the show. If I'm selling something, if I am going to be participating in something, or just anything, I can share an update at the top of the shows, and that's the time when most people are listening. So if they hear or if they don't listen to the whole episode, they at least hear that portion. And then I'll also do pluses and deltas. So if you listen, that's when I give like updates about my life and just kind of share like my own like self-care revelations over the week. And then at the end, most of the time, I forget this all the time, but I have an advice segment and I forget to do it. One, I forget to ask for questions a lot, and then a lot of times when I do ask for questions, I forget to like answer those questions. But I am gonna get better, like more on top of it, because I am trying to lengthen the episodes a little bit. And then I also have a self-care mission, so that is like a tangible activity that people can do surrounding or revolving around the topic of the show for that week. So it's just like a fun addition for me to make sure that people have some type of practical takeaway. That's my big thing with Gentler, is making sure it's practical self-care. So I want you to have something that you can do, an action that you can take after listening to the episode. And that's another thing that I kind of did a little bit and then I fell off, and now I'm adding it back. So it's fun, and it also just helps me to be more empowered by my work, because I can be for sure that I'm offering the things that I say I am, because I have systems and structures in place to make it happen. So I will focus on those segments. A lot of times I will like decide ahead of time what the pluses and deltas are going to be, because when I actually turn on the microphone, often I find I'm just like at a loss for words, and I'm like, I don't know, everything is normal, you know, whatever. And then afterwards I'm like, oh, you should have talked about this recent development and that. So I'll go ahead and write those things out ahead of time. And then the last things I do are mainly housekeeping. So I'll decide on some graphics to post on Instagram that are valuable. So a lot of times, like, the new episode posts don't perform as well, and I still do them because not everything is about like performance. Sometimes information just needs to be shared however, but I will often try to like do some type of like list post or a catchy quote post from the episode, something like that, to get people interested in the information in the square. And then they might say like, oh, you know, let me go and listen to it because this is good info. Let me go listen. I try not to give everything away in the post, because then why would you go listen to it? So I'll do that. I'll also, since I have a blog post, share it to Pinterest, share it to any relevant Facebook groups. I will make sure that the show notes are written out properly. I keep the show notes super simple, like maybe like a line. Like in this episode, Maya talks about XYZ. That's another great place to share the takeaways. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That is pretty much my podcast like plan from start to finish. I release the episode into the world, and then I hope for the best. No, like, this seriously, it's a pretty simple process. I used to have things be really hard for myself. I don't know if y'all can tell, but like Ginger was like rocking back and forth into my body. She's not so much anymore, but she was. She's playing with something. She keeps like hitting me, but that's besides the point. Like I said, it used to be like a difficult process, but it was really important for me to just identify what was important and prioritize those things. So yes, I could have more bells and whistles. I could have even more of a streamlined process, but starting out from this framework really helps me to more easily dive into optimizing it even more. So that is my plan for 2021. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Share this video if you know another podcaster. I'm going to try to end this before Ginger starts squeaking too loudly. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching.